Hello everybody and welcome to game number 1 of this best of 7 final series for the 1 vs 1 Tiberium Wars Spring Showdown Tournament hosted proudly by GameReplays.org, and that brings us to the map Tournament Tower. And spawning in the upper left corner as the pink GDI, we have Shock Treatment. And then all the way down in the bottom right corner, spawning as the Cyan Scrin, we have Aeonian. So Aeonian versus Shock Treatment here in the finals. 0-0 is the score. This is game number 1, and Tournament Tower should be an interesting map. GDI versus Scrin. Now, that's actually a matchup that I haven't seen fairly frequently on this map, so it should be interesting to see how things shake out. Aeonian may go for some kind of a dev core rush here on this map. I know he's been famed for that in the past. I don't know if he's necessarily given up on that here in the present day, but we're going to be seeing the patented APC engineer coming out from Shock Treatment. Not terribly surprising, a very, very strong early cheese coming out from GDI, and he will likely go for a capture on the Tiberium spike of Aeonian. Should be able to grab that out from underneath him, no problem, and give himself a little bit of an economy advantage. We'll have to see if Aeonian invests in another engineer to actually grab that back, but he is ticking away at 25 credits a second as we speak. And yeah, these guys just ecoing at the moment. Doesn't look like anything too crazy beyond just a couple of APC engineers. Pretty standard builds here so far. Both players actually creeping up into that middle tower area, and we do see Shock Treatment with current control of that tower, but he will definitely be losing control of that once Aeonian actually moves up to the platform. The ability for Buzzer Hives to actually de-garrison that tower is very, very strong. And it looked like Aeonian tried to de-garrison that squad to grab a kill on that engineer, but it's just wishful thinking right there. There's really no way that's going to happen. APC engineer, not quite sure where this one went. I don't know if it fell back, but it may have been destroyed here actually by a couple of Seeker tanks coming out from Aeonian, so nice pickup there to not lose too much. He may have lost a refinery here. I did miss it, unfortunately, but that is okay. It's not too much to worry about, not at this point in time. We do have a portal down, so it's looking like Aeonian's maybe going for another assimilator here to grab that Tiberium spike back from Shock Treatment. That's exactly what he's going to do. Those Tiberium spikes so important on this map, particularly in Tiberium Wars. They provide just so much economy. The engineer actually managed to survive somehow, managed to get itself into the logistics center, and surprisingly enough didn't get de-garrisoned, at least not yet. So nice save there on Shock Treatment's end to actually keep that engineer alive. He may have actually faked Aeonian into thinking that he killed it off when he killed the APC, but another APC out here. Just going to be patrolling the border here for Shock Treatment. Not a whole lot to speak about in this game so far. Straight eco here coming out from Aeonian. He is up to tier 2 now, so could be seeing some Devourer tanks coming out, or he may go straight up to tier 3. And we do have double refinery on this expansion here for Shock Treatment. Double barracks here as well. Interesting seeing that he's up against a Scrin player here. Anti-infantry capabilities coming out from Aeonian are going to be pretty significant. Actually de-garrisons the GDI Logistics Center, surprisingly enough. Looks like he's going to try to kill off some of those rocket squads. Does not actually get the kill. Does get some scouting information. Calls in the Buzzer Swarm support power. That's going to be getting quite a few kills, but the APCs are here to clean up the remainder of those units. A number go down, though. Disintegrators just marching forward, unfortunately, to their death, as they're not going to be able to get any kills. But the Predator tanks here are a bit overextended here for Shock Treatment. Going to be pulling the Devourer tanks out of position, and that will be going down to a couple of Rocket Squad blasts here from Shock Treatment. And Shock Treatment has managed to completely clean up this army here of Aeonian, and now Aeonian trying desperately to pump out that tier 2 unit production, and unfortunately is dealing with the mass tier 1 production coming out from Shock Treatment, and the tier 1 is just so strong. We do not have composite armor yet for Shock Treatment. That may be an upgrade that he may get in the near future. Maybe not against a Scrin faction, just due to the fact that they're going to insta-kill these guys, but there are those disintegrators here on the back lines going to be joining the fight. Phase Field actually being forced to be used on a single harvester. Unfortunately, did not clump up all of his harvesters. Could have saved those for sure. Drops a lightning spike, going to be able to keep, or rather a storm column, going to be trying to desperately to keep this field alive. 2 portals going to be enough to building block this force away from getting any more harvester kills, and actually a Predator tank trying desperately to get that harvester there will go down to some disintegrators on the back lines. And now the forces of Shock Treatment just continuing to kite around, going to be looking to come back in. Should be able to get a kill on that harvester once it becomes unfazed in the very near future. Another storm column came down in the meantime. Tier 3 is done here for Shock Treatment. In the meantime, he's being given free opportunities to completely harvest out this field, but he's going to be running out of economy pretty soon on that field, and is going to be relying on his backfield quite a bit. Unfortunately, it looks like one of his harvesters is pulled off the line. Not quite sure what happened there, but Mammoth Tank's coming out on the field now for shock treatment as well, and it's looking like it's going to be the slow roll to victory here for shock treatment as he's gained that early advantage, pushed Aeonian off of this field, and now it is starving Aeonian of economy. He does still have some economy left on this field, but unfortunately not enough harvesting to really keep up with the production of shock treatment. This is looking very, very scary here for Aeonian. He may be able to pull something out, but I very, very seriously doubt it, as we do have just a couple of harvesters that are being forced to sit on the backlines. Juggernaut's out on the field as well, going to be forcing the sell-off of the storm columns, and now that will signal the frontal force here from shock treatment to continue pushing forward as I stumble over my words, and this is looking very, very good for shock treatment, opening up very, very strong here in game number 1, going to be taking out the refinery and continuing to push Aeonian back into his base. He did drop a gravity stabilizer, and I heard something go down. It looks like it was the drone ship, so gets the capture on the drone ship to cap everything off, and shock treatment going to be picking up a quick game number 1. So despite the commentary fails, very, very powerful showing from shock treatment. I keep wanting to call him Shocktopus since that's his name here in this game, but yeah, 6 minutes and 16 seconds, pretty short. Pretty, I guess not necessarily surprising here on this map. Usually the only drawn-out matches are the ones that are mirror matches, and then it ends up being just small advantages going one way, and obviously having control of the Tiberium spikes makes a huge difference. But shock treatment just really abusing the early game power of the GDI faction, going to be pushing Aeonian out of game number 1, and we'll be having to see if Aeonian can even up the score here in game number 2. With that said, game number 2 brings us to the map Small Town, USA. And spawning down in the bottom left corner as the pink scrin, we have shock treatment. And down 1-0 here in this best of 7 series in the upper right corner as the orange GDI, we have Aeonian. So it is 1-0 in favor of shock treatment. Small Town, USA going to be the map of choice here for Aeonian. Interesting choice. And he did go GDI this time around, so maybe looking to return the favor of the early game APC engineers coming out from shock treatment in the last game. Looks like there are a couple of engineers out. There are 3 engineers, so that will be used as an APC engineer. But we do see a disintegrator opener here for shock treatment, so maybe reading this and just saying, hey, if you're gonna go those early game engineers, I may go for some harvester kills here in the meantime. And we'll have to see if Aeonian catches this one out. It looks like he probably will. Yeah, he's going to be seeing that now. Very good scouting path here from Aeonian. Manages to grab himself the garrisonable structure very close to shock treatment's base. Going to be getting de-garrisoned straight away by a buzzer hive drop, but he got the information that he wanted. He got eyes on the fact that there are disintegrators out on the map, and now Aeonian, he has to deal with this, but there are a decent number of disintegrators down in the south as well, so huge disintegrator opener here for shock treatment. He's gone very, very heavy into this. Gonna be looking to maybe snipe down both of the Tiberium spikes. I can't see him possibly even getting into the base of Aeonian. I really don't think it's even possible. And actually a nice watchtower placement here from Aeonian, going to be keeping that Tiberium spike alive. And actually another one here on the right-hand side, going to be keeping that one alive. So no Tiberium spikes being lost here for Aeonian. And shock treatment, he's invested a lot of money into those early game disintegrators, has not been able to actually pick up anything. NG APC coming out, going to be forcing the pack up of the drone ship as well as the capture of the warp sphere. And Aeonian deciding not to actually sell that off. He's going to be keeping it around and trying to keep his APC alive, I think, a little bit longer. And he may actually drop some watchtowers here in the base of shock treatment and then just push him out of this game. Though there are disintegrators in the base of Aeonian at this point. Going to be going for some harvester snipes at this point, but very good micro control here from Aeonian. Going to be keeping those harvesters alive, and it looks like he should get away scot-free here. And he's picked himself up a very, very significant early game advantage, dropping actually a war factory in the base of shock treatment as well. And more than likely going to have to see some kind of a portal or something coming out from Aeonian trying to grab these structures back. Actually drops a tier 2. Okay. I don't know what the plan is with the tier 2. That's an interesting choice. Not what I would have picked, but then again, that's probably why I lose the majority of my games. We're actually seeing a pretty big tank battle here on the front lines as Predator tanks are pumping out on the front lines with Seeker tanks and now Devourer tanks on the front lines here for shock treatment. And this is getting very, very messy actually getting a nice charge on the Devourer tanks. And actually, surprisingly enough, Shock Treatment managing to hold this pretty well. Unfortunately, he does have to deal with a decent number of watchtowers in his base, and it's killing off a majority of his units, and actually forcing the pack up of the drone ship here by the engineer coming out from the barracks, and forcing off a sell-off of one of the warp spheres here. That's going to be severely limiting the production of Shock Treatment, and actually that's going to be it. Shock Treatment going to be throwing in the towel and giving over game number 2 to Aeonian. And yeah, pretty sudden, abrupt end there, as Shock Treatment more than likely just left the game, but he was probably the one that uploaded the replay, so that's why it ended like that. But anyways, strong game coming out from Aeonian. Saw the early game disintegrators, despite the fact that Shock Treatment did his best to spread them out both on the top and bottom. But Aeonian read that very, very well and managed to get himself up a couple of defensive watchtowers, and then continued to press his early game advantage with that APC engineer up the middle, and managed to grab himself a warp sphere in the base of Shock Treatment. So very, very good showing here. These guys are looking very much on point, and GDI looking to be the way to go here in these last 2 games, coming through with a very, very strong victory for both players. So we'll have to see what the faction choice is here for game number 3, and that's coming up right now. And game number 3 brings us to the map Tournament Dust Bowl. And spawning in the top of the map as the orange nod, we have Aeonian. And then sliding on down to the bottom of the map as the pink GDI, we have Shock Treatment. So Shock Treatment and Aeonian tying things up here. GDI looking to be the stronger of the 2 factions between GDI and Scrin so far. And Aeonian mixing it up, going to be going for Nod here in this game. Did not have map choice. This was the choice of Shock Treatment. Did go for that GDI as well, so he's definitely got something in mind for this game. Surprisingly enough, actually sending out his engineers on their own. No APCs, despite knowing that he's up against a Nod faction. Actually, I don't know if he necessarily knew this. It may have been random. And Shadow Team opener here coming out from Aeonian. Going to get a snipe on the Rifleman squad there, and forcing the callback here from the engineers of Shock Treatment. He's very, very concerned about losing those right now, as we do have Shadow Teams out on the left-hand side as well. So very good control here from Shock Treatment not to lose any of those engineers, at least not yet. APCs coming out as well to support these guys, and one's already out on the field. So one engineer is safe for the time being. Looks like the other one will be saved as well, despite taking a little bit of damage by walking over some Tiberium. But looks like Aeonian just going to be poking away at the garrison of Shock Treatment. Surprisingly enough, Shock Treatment not actually able to fire on that position. That's kind of interesting, but very nice control there from Shock Treatment to grab that Tiberium spike, despite the fact that there is a Shadow Team there. So maybe Aeonian not willing to give up the Shadow Team for the kill on the engineer. I would have imagined that would have been a better trade, but all the same, we do have an APC engineer here out on the left-hand side, and that will be capturing the Tiberium spike on the left-hand side for Shock Treatment as well. So Aeonian, he did get a snipe on a power plant, I believe, which is going to be slowing down the build here of Shock Treatment just a little bit, but I honestly think he's gone for enough APC engineers to make this worthwhile. I think I did see another engineer, or rather another APC out. Yeah, so there is another APC. Does not actually have an engineer. That may have just been the APC from the left-hand side, dropping off the engineer at the Tiberium spike. I think there's another one out of the map. Not quite sure where he is, though. And actually another engineer coming out from Aeonian as well. So lots of engineers going to be looking to grab Tiberium spikes in this game, and Aeonian going to be continuing to protect that with his militant squads as well. So not a whole lot more to be said there. That APC just trying to force a sell-off of a structure. Actually, no, he's going to drop a minefield, get a little bit of damage on these harvesters. They are out of range of that war factory, so that's actually pretty good. But what we did see, and actually we do see the Shadow Teams getting cleaned up there by Shock Treatment, but Aeonian going for an interesting move here. He did expand off to the right-hand side. I believe it has been spotted by Shock Treatment. I'm not 100% positive of that, but I'm reasonably confident that he will be expecting that due to the fact that there's not a whole lot here on his main field, so he must be expecting that there's something up. But triple refinery on this expansion already, and it's looking like it's going to be rocket squads coming out to defend this as well, so probably reading that Shock Treatment is going to be going for either pit bulls or something to actually push down that field, and that would be a really good opportunity for Shock Treatment to get in there and harass some of those harvesters, especially being so far forward. But it's going to be bikes coming out from Aeonian as well, so it's looking like he's transitioned into a bit of of an infantry and bike buggy composition here. And more than likely the bike buggy going to be trying to grab himself some map control. He's got pretty good control here on the right-hand side of the map, as shock treatment hasn't really made any effort to secure himself a foothold in the middle of the map, as he's left the left side completely wide open. So it's going to become a battle here on the right-hand side. Maybe shock treatment will expand back to the other side. He does have a crane, so he's going very, very heavy macro build right now. He's actually dropped an armory as well, so more than likely going to be seeing composite armor on the cards here for shock treatment. But the Pitbull's actually up in the north, going to be attacking the harvesters, actually forcing the sell-off of a couple of Tiberium silos here to get out the militant squads. Rocket squads as well as bikes, going to be enough to actually defend against this. And I think we did see maybe one harvester go down. Yeah, I think there was only 3 or 4 harvesters on that field to start with, so at max 2 harvesters going down. But rocket squads coming out from Aeonian, going to be enough to push those guys back. And in the meantime, shock treatment, what has he been doing? Looks like he does have an upgrade already completed. It looks like composite armor is done. So it's going to be infantry spam coming out from shock treatment. His MCV is on the move. Not quite sure where it is. Yeah, so okay, he's done exactly what I thought he was going to do. He's moved his MCV off to the left-hand side, realizing that he has pretty good control over there, seeing that Aeonian has invested the majority of his resources on the right-hand side of the map. But now there is a decent-sized infantry force here coming out for Aeonian, and this could be dangerous for shock treatment, but there's not a whole lot of anti-infantry coming out from shock treatment just yet. We do have a couple of rifleman squads, as well as actually sniper teams being drafted coming out from shock treatment. That should actually fare very well against the infantry. The sniper team's going to be able to kill off those rocket squads very, very quickly. Laser turrets actually being dropped by Aeonian as well, something that you don't see all that often, but we've been seeing quite a bit in this tournament, surprisingly enough. And a flame tank out on the left-hand side, actually going to get spotted by shock treatment's garrison here, so nice foxhole. Unfortunately, will be losing his Tiberium strike, just no way to save that. And we do have a number of Predator tanks. Actually should be able to catch out that flame tank. Yeah, he's going to be able to catch out that flame tank, no problem, and should be able to keep his expansion on the left-hand side protected for now. I don't know that it has been spotted just yet, but rocket squad's now pushing forward with the support of the sniper teams on the back lines. They have taken quite a bit of damage from the shredder turrets and being forced to actually pull back. Nice control there from shock treatment to actually micro down the shredder turret, the actual turrets, not just the hub. Looks like this time he will just use the superior concave to actually take out the hub straight away and eliminate that as a threat. But in the meantime, Aeonian, he does have double war factory here on the left-hand side. Does have an operations center down as well. Not quite sure where that MCV is at just now, but decent number of bikes here out for Aeonian. Going to be trying to snipe down some of these Predator tanks. Should actually be trading bikes for Predator tanks, and this is actually probably a good trade here for Aeonian. He's managed to take out a decent number of those Predator tanks and didn't lose too many bikes. So if he's trading 1-for-1 on those bikes, it's actually not bad at all. Shredder turret still trying to work away at this missile squad army here coming out from shock treatment, and Aeonian actually pulling one of his harvesters off the line, trying to get some kills on those guys. But now the missile squad's just continuing to take damage. Sniper teams on the back lines clean up any infantry that comes out from Aeonian to try to defend against that push. In the meantime, shock treatment on the left-hand side, he's managed to get his economy established. He has a barracks as well as a war factory down. Going to be continuing to pump out some units over there as well. Actually, the MCV taking a little bit of damage here from some pitbull raiding from shock treatment, and he managed to catch that out. But it's looking like actually we do have a refinery as well as an obelisk. So tier 3 done for Aeonian. Going to be trying to kill off some of these Predator tanks and actually should put a decent amount of pressure on this field. But straight away we do have juggernauts out on the field for shock treatment, so maybe expecting that there was going to be an expansion over there, realizing that this field has been more or less cleaned up. But in the meantime, Aeonian has expanded off to the left-hand side as well, so he's kind of spread out at this point in time. Actually double drops refineries on that field, so he's not terribly invested in this frontal assault here. More than likely just going to be dropping some structures just to shield some of these units, but honestly these juggernauts will just rain death and destruction from pretty far away here. Bikes actually harassing down in the south. Great flank here coming out from Aeonian. Manages to force a sonic emitter drop out from shock treatment. He does sell that off now. Pitbull's going to be responding to this, but a couple of bikes actually still out here just putting a little bit of pain here onto shock treatment's base. Does poke a little bit of damage onto that tier 3, just going to be getting eyes on where that's at. In the meantime, we do have the infantry as well as juggernauts pushing forward here for shock treatment. On the left-hand side of the map, he's going to be looking to knock out the MCV of Aeonian, and he should be able to do that no problem. That's a decent number of rocket squads, as well as the support of the Juggernauts on the back line. Once they get into range, they should be able to drop that construction yard very quickly. Yeah, you can see it chunks it out very, very quick. Looks like actually railguns are done now for shock treatment as well. Mine drop coming out, going to be dropping right on the top of those Juggernauts, and actually the Juggernauts not being microed properly. One does go down, and we did see vertical bombers as well, so Aeonian pulling everything out here for this game. Going to be bringing out the vertigo bombers. They should do very, very nicely against these Juggernauts. Manages to take out another Juggernaut, so unfortunately shock treatment just kind of throwing these guys into the meat grinder. But Obelisk versus infantry, definitely not what you want to be seeing. Shredder turrets on the back lines trying to poke down those infantry, but they're just so tanky with that composite armor upgrade. And in the meantime, we do have Pitbulls raiding into the field of Aeonian here on the right-hand side. Going to be trying to take out some harvesters desperately, trying to defend these with some militant squads, but it's not going to be enough damage output. As we can see, those harvesters are getting poked down pretty quickly. Avatar here coming out for Aeonian, manages to drop another one of the Juggernauts, but is now being actually kited out by railgun mammoth tanks, and yeah, that Avatar is going to fall back. Wise decision, is taking a little bit of poke here from some missile squads that have managed to survive. A couple of stealth tanks out on the field, surprisingly enough, going to be coming out. That is going to be a really good harassment opportunity here for Aeonian, but he needs to be careful. Those railgun mammoth tanks are going to be able to absolutely shred the paper-thin armor of those stealth tanks. And actually, we do have a one-click coming out from Aeonian, and unfortunately, shock treatment losing 2 refineries as well as a harvester there. So that's actually quite a bit of money down the drain there for shock treatment. Unfortunate to deal with, but it is what it is. And now actually the air tower does go down, takes a vertigo bomber with it. Aeonian not able to control that one well enough, and actually the Avatar is getting a nice concave on that mammoth tank. Managed to take that out straight away, and actually now being forced to take damage from some rocket squads. They are taking damage from the Juggernauts on the back lines as well. A couple of mammoth tanks out to defend these guys if anything manages to sneak past, so more than likely those stealth tanks have been spotted somewhere. Not quite sure where they're at. Looks like they may have gone down. Not quite sure where they ended up. Yeah, we can't really tell, but we do have the mammoth tanks actually being pushed back here by the base defenses, as well as the Avatar army coming out from Aeonian. He's invested pretty heavily in these Avatars, despite the fact that there are a decent amount of infantry on the field. He has a number of militant squads that have managed to run their way forward. They managed to get a decent flank, trying desperately to find some infantry to kill. But as we can see, those militant squads against just a single member of a rocket squad take quite a long time to take it down. And those militant squads just dying for the cause. Going to be delaying this push here of shock treatment just a tiny bit, and trying desperately to get those Juggernaut husks back as well, and should actually be focusing those down. Aeonian does not want to allow those to go back into the hands of shock treatment. More militant squads just being fed into the meat grinder here. That is shock treatment at this point, and shock treatment's looking very, very strong right now. He's got a decent sized army. He's pushing on the left hand side. Meanwhile, Aeonian, he doesn't have anything on the right hand side. He could get harassed pretty hard, and there's not a whole lot of response that he could really muster in time to defend it. He's starting to be starved out of economy here by the forces of shock treatment. As we can see, he's almost managed to completely clean up this entire field on the left-hand side, and that just shows how far ahead he is in economy at this point. We do have a number of mammoth tanks out on the front lines, infantry on the front lines, Juggernaut's going to be following up from behind, engineers on the back lines as well, more than likely just to grab those Juggernauts back up the second they go down. Avatars being continually pumped out here for Aeonian. He's definitely invested in this force, and it's an interesting composition to say the least, particularly against the Juggernauts. If they can get into range, they should be able to clean them up pretty quickly. The Avatars, if they get a nice concave, they should be able to take down these mammoth tanks pretty quickly, but otherwise they will get kited out by the superior mobility of these mammoth tanks. Vertigo bombers once again going to be trying to come in and get some Juggernauts. Managed to drop 2 of them very, very low, but going to be paying for that with a vertigo bomber, and that's a pretty costly investment. Unfortunately, are not able to manage to take that one out. Missile squads just running forward, just going to be trying to poke some damage onto these Avatars, forcing them back to the repairs of the War Factory. Obelisk surprisingly doing a decent job of holding the line here for Aeonian on the left-hand side. Shredder turrets being dropped as well. Juggernaut's finally getting into range of these base defenses, and it's looking like shock treatment's finally ready to commit to start killing some units here. And vertigo bombers being traded for Juggernauts. Definitely not a cost-effective trade here, as we do have the engineers just continually being streamed to the front lines, going to be grabbing back these units. A couple of Juggernauts could be grabbed here. A couple of engineers are already here. They should be grabbing those guys back straight away. Avatars as well as Rocket Squad's going to be pushing forward. One Mammoth Tank will be going down straight away. Will he get a second one? Second Mammoth Tank going to be going down, and the Avatar Concave here coming out from Aeonian is going to be good enough. Catches out these forces with the support power of the Mine Drops, and that's going to be huge damage coming out from Aeonian. Has he managed to turn this battle around? It's looking like he has, despite the fact that he has nothing to deal with this infantry aside from a couple of Shredder turrets sitting on the back lines, but he's managed to take out a huge amount of high-tier units of shock treatment, and that will be forcing shock treatment to fall back at least long enough to give Aeonian a bit of time here. And Aeonian, he's managed to grab himself a tech center, surprisingly enough. Shredder turret actually being dropped to force the power down of this barracks, just to keep that from actually coming online and getting out the engineer to grab that tech center back. But man, that's a little bit of a stalemate there down in the bottom right corner. But that's a huge loss for shock treatment, as he will not be able to build any more Mammoth Tanks or Juggernauts, so that's a pretty significant loss. He's going to be forced to rebuild his tech center, and unfortunately he does not have a whole lot of economy to speak of. An Avatar actually extending a little bit too far forward. Not quite sure what he was trying to do. Maybe get a snipe on an Avatar, or a Juggernaut husk rather. And now the infantry composition here out from shock treatment is pushing forward, manages to take out a decent amount of the Shredder turrets. Need to focus down the hubs as well, and he will be doing that. Juggernauts firing from the back lines, not doing a whole lot as we speak here. A couple of stealth tanks out on the field here for Aeonian, going to be looking to maybe get into the back lines, or could even go for a massive crush move on this infantry if they are quick enough. But actually, shock treatment is doing a really nice job of spreading these guys out, and he's more than likely attack moving as well. So the second those guys become visible, they will more than likely go down. Avatars being forced to fight against infantry, and that's definitely not what you want to be seeing. Engineer here, not quite sure what that's doing. Unfortunately, that Vertigo Bomber being spotted by the infantry, that will go down. I think it does get its payload off, manages to take out another Juggernaut, but that will more than likely just get picked up by engineers on the back lines. And now shock treatment is just continuing to pound his way forward. It looks like the forces here down on the right-hand side have been cleaned up. Looks like there was a support power actually being called in on the infantry. That was actually a Tiberium Catalyst missile, surprisingly enough. It may have been a Vapor Bomb, not quite sure. Actually, on second thought, I think it may have been a Vapor Bomb. And Aeonian looking to be in a very tough situation here. The power of the GDI coming forward here from shock treatment. He's just firing on all forces here. Not actually focus firing. He has his forces really spread out, and he's keeping Aeonian back, and he's continuing to slow push forward, but he's losing a decent number of units. And if he continues to lose all of this infantry, then he's not going to have anything to defend these Juggernauts. He's going to be left in a tough situation once again once those Avatars come marching in, because they're just going to focus those guys down straight away. And it looks like Aeonian's just trying to buy himself enough time to get those Avatars into position to be able to take these guys out. He's thinned the rocket squads pretty significantly, and as long as he can draw them in close enough, he should be able to march those Avatars straight forward and not worry too much about those rocket squads as he goes for the kills on the Juggernauts. That's really where the majority of the DPS is coming out right now. The rocket squad's just being used to tank this front line right now. They are doing a nice job of taking out some Shredder turrets in the meantime, but the Juggernauts really raining down death and destruction from far behind the front lines here. Only 4 Juggernauts out for shock treatment. I don't know if he's actually rebuilt his tier 3. Let's take a quick look. It doesn't look like he has, so he doesn't appear to be too concerned about losing these Juggernauts, and that could actually be a good thing here for Aeonian. Unfortunately, he's continually being pushed back. Not quite sure where his stealth tanks are. Oh, do we have any stealth tanks out on the field? It doesn't look like it. Actually, a mass harvester transition coming out from shock treatment. Pitbull's out on the field, going to be trying desperately to take out the shadow teams, or at least get some eyes on them. And he will be getting eyes on those, no problem. Probably trying to come in and get some flanks on these Avatars if they do move in for the kill shot. And Mammoth Tank here on the right-hand side. That's going to actually get caught out here by the Avatar Concave, and that will be going down very, very quickly. Unfortunately, only taking a couple of Shredder turrets with it, not the actual hub itself. So definitely not a cost-effective trade there. Not quite sure what shock treatment was really planning with that Mammoth Tank, but doesn't look like Aeonian's willing to give up on this one. He seems to think that maybe if he can get a quick engagement against that infantry, he should be able to push forward with those Avatars and take out the Juggernauts, and that could really turn the tide of this battle. And shock treatment, probably realizing that that's the case, he doesn't necessarily want to overcommit into this, and because that could be the end of the game for him and putting himself at a disadvantage moving forward in the series. So neither one of these guys really willing to budge here. Shock treatment just continuing to push his advantage and slowly push forward, taking out what he can here. Shredder turrets being dropped by Aeonian, and that's just less forces that are going to be out on the field here for him, and he's actually not in range of any of the rocket squads. He's actually managing to get some shots on the Juggernauts, but honestly, they do absolutely nothing. Sorry, I had to grab a quick drink there, and this game's been kind of interesting. I'm not quite sure if I'd necessarily say that it's a great game. It's looking very much to be going in Shock Treatment's favor, despite some nice moves here from Aeonian. And Pitbull raiding on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, can't commit into the field to kill off any harvesters due to the fact that an obelisk is there, but the rocket squad's coming out from Shock Treatment. Actually, huge crush move coming out from the harvester from Aeonian. That was actually pretty massive. That's a decent number of rocket squads that did go down. Shockwave artillery came down on the war factory as well as all the avatars, or at least a decent number of the avatars, but they weren't really doing a whole lot to speak of, at least not during that time. And now there are only 3 Juggernauts out on the field here for Shock Treatment. He doesn't seem to want to commit into this. I don't quite know what he's waiting for. I think he's really concerned about those 5 avatars being able to focus stuff down too quickly, and once they take out those Juggernauts, I think that's lights out here for Shock Treatment. Not quite sure how he can transition back into this game. He's actually going to move forward with his MCV, maybe just going to be looking to grab a little bit more of a forward position and just continue to crawl forward. He does have a couple of refineries on this field as well as decent harvesting. May actually grab himself some harvesting on this expansion here from Aeonian and just continue to starve Aeonian out of this game. Despite the fact that Aeonian is actually trading okay at this stage in the game, but he's just so hemmed in at this point. I think honestly Shock Treatment's maybe playing a little bit too defensively at this point. Actually, he does have a Zone Trooper out on the field, and that's actually a really good move here. Those Zone Troopers pretty tanky against the Shredder turrets and are actually managing to force the avatars to fall back pretty significantly. And yeah, those avatars are going to need to stay a good distance away. Shredder turrets being focused down very, very quickly, and once the construction yard goes down, oh my god, the one clicks! That was a huge stealth field coming out from Aeonian as he takes out the majority of the rocket squads, and that's the majority of the tanking force here for Shock Treatment. He does have a decent number of rocket squads that show up from the back lines, but they are being forced back by the militant squads as well as the Shredder turrets from Aeonian, and Aeonian just refusing to give in this game. Does have a Black Hand squad off on the right-hand side rather, as there is a militant squad scouting forward as well, so late game upgrades done for the infantry here for Aeonian. Meanwhile, Shock Treatment, he's just continuing to try to capitalize on this map control advantage that he has, just trying desperately to starve Aeonian out of economy and just prevent him from having those super cost-effective trades. Not quite sure where Aeonian's tier 2 is at this point. It looks like he may have sold that off once he got that stealth field off. Yeah, I think he probably did. Black Hand Squad actually trying to kill off a refinery here on the right-hand side, forcing a couple of watchtower drops here from Shock Treatment. That's actually not too bad, but the Juggernauts are now in range. They're managing to take out some forces here. I'm not quite sure exactly what that was. It may have been a Hand of Nod out from Aeonian, but honestly, these Juggernauts just sitting really far back, and Shock Treatment not willing to commit into a full-on engagement here with the forces of Aeonian, and Aeonian maybe continuing to kite this one out with the avatars still alive and the construction yard in very, very good health. Honestly, these I think Shock Treatment could force the hand of Aeonian here, force those Juggernauts into the range of the construction yard, and then use the rocket squads to pick off the avatars as they come into range, because they're going to have to commit to either crushing the infantry or taking out the Juggernauts. And meanwhile, I think the Juggernauts can honestly focus down that construction yard and really turn the tide of this battle completely over to the favor of Shock Treatment. But he's continuing to focus down these Shredder turrets. It's such a waste. I mean, honestly, yes, he's denying economy out from Aeonian, but it's just buying Aeonian time, and that's all that he wants at this point in time. Avatar is actually extending pretty far forward against these rocket squads, going to be taking quite a bit of damage. One Avatar almost going down, will not actually go down, and I don't think he has any way of repairing these, at least not yet. No, actually forces a Hand of Nod drop, maybe going to be pumping out some engineers here, actually grab those Avatars once they go down. Black Hand Squad actually doing a pretty nice job of getting some kills on some infantry. Not quite sure what he's doing right now. It looks like he's just killing off some infantry that have managed to stray their way forward. Could actually be getting some nice kills on this infantry. Actually, the Juggernauts going to be falling back here, surprisingly enough. Sniper teams being called in. Interesting move here from Shock Treatment. He could actually use the sniper teams possibly from bombardment. I'm not sure if, yes, Juggernauts do have the bombard ability here in Tiberium Wars, so he could get a sniper team here in around the backside and then just snipe the MCV. sells off the MCV, so it looks like Aeonion's throwing the towel in on this one, and Shock Treatment taking a very drawn-out game number 3. Oh, that one was tough to keep interesting. I was starting to fall asleep there towards the end of the game. It was just a very, very slow push coming out from Shock Treatment, and Aeonian just unwilling to give up the threat of those avatars. But once he did lose 1 or 2, I think that was pretty much lights out for him. And Shock Treatment, he just got such a huge economy advantage and was really starting to capitalize on it towards the end of the game. So very nice move there from Shock Treatment to pick himself up a game number 3, and that's 3 games in a row that we've seen GDI come out on top. So we'll have to see if game number 4 shows the same thing, but we'll be seeing that coming up right now. And game number 4 brings us to the map Tournament Rift, and spawning on the left-hand side as the green nod, we have Aeonian. And picking himself up a 1-game lead with a score of 2-1 right now here. On the right-hand side, as the pink screen, we have Shock Treatment. So it is 2-1 in favor of Shock Treatment. Aeonian had map choice. Tournament Rift going to be the choice for him in this game. So he did go Nod this time around, I believe. I'm not quite sure if it was random or factions were chosen, but regardless, it is going to be Scrin versus Nod. So no GDI in this game, despite seeing very, very strong showing from them in all 3 prior games. It will not be any GDI out in this game. So Shadow Team opener here for Aeonian. He did send out an outpost to the middle of the map, going to be grabbing himself probably a war factory or a refinery here on this field. I have to imagine that it's going to be a war factory due to the fact that he has sent out Shadow Team, so I think he's going to be a little bit behind here. Yeah, that war factory, it looks like it is queuing right now, and he should be able to drop that here the second that outpost is ready. And it's looking like Aeonian is going to be opening up extremely aggressive here. Where are the engineers here from Shock Treatment? So despite the fact that Aeonian did go for Shadow Teams, does he have any Shadow Teams down here? Oh, almost loses those Shadow Teams to the Buzzers. Just a blind move from the Buzzers of Shock Treatment. So, wow, that could have been really, really bad here for Aeonian. He did go for 2 engineers. He's going to be looking to grab himself an assimilator. Oh, he does manage to pick off the assimilator, so that's going to be putting Shock Treatment pretty far behind. But actually, surprisingly enough, an outpost opener for both players is going to be expanding to the middle of the map. But the economy advantage is going to be going over to Aeonian due to the fact that he did get his refinery down a little bit quicker, as well as grabbing himself the Tiberium Spike in the south. He'll actually be grabbing himself a 2nd Tiberium Spike as well, putting himself at 3 Tiberium Spikes to 1, and also having that a bit of a boost here in the early game due to the fact that there was an engineer that was sniped here from Shock Treatment. So no APC engineers coming out from either side, so there's no possibility for Shock Treatment to really easily grab those Tiberium Spikes back from the control of Aeonian. He's going to have to commit to a decent-sized fight down there in order to grab that. But now it's Scorpion Tanks versus Seeker Tanks here on the front lines, and actually a laser turret drop coming out from Aeonian. Actually, the laser turret's very, very good against the lightly armored Seeker Tanks. Seeker Tanks actually focusing down the Shadow Teams. Definitely not what you want to be seeing. Shadow Team does finally go down, and that will be just extending this fight a little bit longer. Devourer Tank does go down, so Shock Treatment, he did go straight up to tier 2. That was a smart move due to the fact that Scrin tier 1 armor is pretty thin and really isn't going to be all that powerful. Surprisingly enough, not committing to killing off that Devourer Tank. I honestly think that Aeonian's got enough forces here to just camp the Warp Sphere of Shock Treatment and just prevent these Devourer Tanks from really building up in size and numbers here, as we do have the superior kiting and damage output coming out from the Devourer Tanks. But the overwhelming numbers here from Aeonian being used to his advantage will be focusing down the Photon Cannons, though they are a pretty significant nuisance. A Seeker Tank sitting on the backlines as well, doing a nice bit of poking for Shock Treatment in the meantime. Devourer Tank does go down. The last Devourer Tank that is alive is kiting backwards, going to be trying to save itself, and Harvester goes down for Shock Treatment. So massive advantage so far here for Aeonian, grabbing himself a lot of economy on this field and denying the economy of Shock Treatment. Shock Treatment being forced to expend money on more expensive units here, and has a much smaller force of them as well. 3rd Devourer Tank comes out. That may actually get focused down straight away. No, actually, Shock Treatment, he does lose that one, but he forces the kill of, or rather forces the hand of Aeonian to overextend these Scorpion Tanks, and now they're being committed into killing off some more Devourer Tanks. They take out another one, but there are a couple of Devourer Tanks out here for Shock Treatment at this point in time. He does have 2 out at the moment, and this War Factory is continually pumping out more and more Scorpion tanks. Surprisingly enough, no flame tanks or anything at the moment. Maybe seeing flame tanks coming out in the near future as Tier 2 is done. Or it may be just Dozer Blades. No, actually, Dozer Blades I think is a Tier 3 upgrade here in Tiberium Wars, so Shock Treatment doing a really nice job of immediately charging up these Devourer tanks, despite that one going down straight away the second it came out. Rocket Squad's going to be joining the fight here as well for Aeonian, and that's more than likely going to be forcing Shock Treatment off of this field, despite the fact that he does have those Buzzer Hive drops. I think the DPS output from Aeonian is going to be enough to focus down any Buzzer Hive drops coming out from Shock Treatment here, as we do have the Buzzer Hives. They're trying desperately to get in and kill off some of these Rocket Squads, but they're not going to be able to, despite how close they get. I think that's actually the Buzzer Swarm support power being called in, but the Laser Turret's actually doing a pretty nice job of defending against this Shredder Turret as well, actually focusing them down. So this is looking very, very good here for Aeonian. Shock Treatment, he is doing a nice job of kiting with a couple of Devourer tanks, one actually grabbing a veteran rank as well. So doing a nice job there. Unfortunately, the Obelisk being dropped right in range of the Warp Sphere manages to take out one of the Devourer tanks, and that's going to be it. Shock Treatment dropping game number 4 and evening up the score here to 2-2. So again, another abrupt ending. I'm assuming once again that Shock Treatment did upload this replay, so that's why it ended like that. But Aeonian, both of those guys blindly going for both of the bottom Tiberium spikes as well as an outpost in the middle. It left them on an equal economic footing, but then Aeonian going for the shadow teams as well as grabbing himself both of those Tiberium spikes down in the south just put him at such a massive advantage. And also he had his refinery down on that field much quicker as well, more than likely due to the boost of cash from those Tiberium spikes in the south. So very, very nice control there from Aeonian to grab himself a game number 4 and evening up the score to 2-2. So it's anybody's series here. It is a best of 7, so we will need to see 2 more wins coming out from either side. So we're guaranteed at least another 2 games here. So with that said, we're going to be heading into game number 5 right now. And game number 5 brings us to the map Barstow Badlands, and spawning on the left-hand side, coming off of a painful loss in the last game as the pink Nod, we have Shock Treatment. And spawning on the right-hand side as the green Scrin, we have Aeonian. So once again, surprisingly enough, neither one of these guys choosing to go for GDI. It's going to be Scrin for Aeonian this time around. Shock Treatment going to be mixing up and then going for Nod. I don't know that he's gone for Nod in any of these games so far, but it's going to be a Shadow Team opener here coming out from Shock Treatment. Straight up the middle, going to be looking to grab himself that Tiberium Spike. A decent number of buzzers out for Aeonian at this point in time. It's going to have to be nice micro control. Unfortunately, the Shadow Teams do go down, and that Engineer will be going down as well. And that's going to be a nice early game pickup here for Aeonian, as we do have the Shadow Teams being dropped on the other side. Going to be trying to kill off the Assimilator. I think it was revealed there for a second, and yeah, they will manage to grab a kill on that, more than likely. Shock Treatment realizing that it was there. So Engineers have been traded. Shock Treatment, he does have a couple of Shadow Teams out on the field, could be bombing some power plants here. Will more than likely take that out now. Yeah, he's going to be able to take out a power plant here, and that may have equaled up the cost here of the Shadow Team being lost by Shock Treatment. But unfortunately, Shock Treatment going to be a little bit behind in economy due to the fact that he did go for that early game Shadow Team rush. He expended a lot of money on those forces, so he has that early game pressure, and he needs to make that amount into something, and that will more than likely have to be another power plant kill or 2 in order to be worthwhile. I don't know what his plan is. Maybe going to be looking to use those Shadow Teams to grab himself that Tiberium Spike in the center of the map. Still has not been captured just yet. Looks like neither one of these players is ready to commit into grabbing that yet, as we do have the bunker here from Shock Treatment side of the map being garrisoned by a buzzer here from Aeonian. So nice map control there from Aeonian to just force the protection of those Engineers and not actually coming out. Looks like another power plant did go down. At least I believe it was a power plant. It may have been. Oh, hopefully it wasn't a tier 2. That would have been devastating. I don't think those 2 Shadow Teams can actually take out a tier 2. So I have to imagine that that was a power plant. But all the same, it's going to be actually a Gunwalker coming out for Aeonian here on the left-hand side. He does actually drop the tier 2, so it may have actually been the tier 2 that went down. I'm not quite sure. Or it must have been a power plant. I'm going to assume it was a power plant because that would have been unfortunate to miss that. But Shadow Team's actually up in the north, more than likely just trying to solidify the map
pressure here by eliminating all of the scouts around the outskirts of the map. He's going to be coming down here looking for some scouts. Could actually de-garrison this this bunker here and actually take that scout out, but he's more than likely going to be looking to come back in for another power plant kill, as we do see those guys moving in. But shock treatment in the meantime, he's expanded up to the north. He's going to be looking to grab himself some Tiberium here up at this field, and it will be spotted out by a seeker tank force from Aeonian, but the Scorpion tank production from shock treatment should be enough to force those guys back. They do fall back, despite the fact that a couple of those Scorpion tanks did take quite a bit of damage. Tier 3 is already done for Aeonian, so not quite sure what his plan is exactly, as we do not have... actually, we do have masterminds in Tiberium Wars, but Shadow Team's being exposed here by a couple of Seeker tanks. They will be getting focused down by the Gunwalker that's sitting on the back lines, and they will be able to get quite a bit of damage. And now, unfortunately, these guys will not be able to get away. These Seeker tanks can keep up with them pretty easily, and once they go into flight mode, then the Seeker tanks can focus them down much more quickly. So, more than likely just being used as a scouting force at this point for shock treatment. That squad is as good as dead, barring some micro mistakes coming out from Aeonian. Nobody's expanded down to the south, but shock treatment's got a solid footing here in the north, as he does have complete control over that field, actually forcing these harvesters to be microed back here by Aeonian, as he's been starved out of economy entirely on this field. That tier 3 just so expensive, and yeah, as we can see, those harvesters being continually pulled back. So not quite sure what Aeonian's plan here is in this game, as we do actually have Scorpion tanks. It looks like he managed to skirt around the actual vision of Aeonian down in the south. Should be able to come up here and grab himself a tier 2 kill, unless Aeonian has seen this. I don't think he has seen it. He actually is sending a tripod over here, so it must have been spotted at some point. So really nice nice map awareness coming out from Aeonian. He should be losing the tier 2, but he's going to be able to take down a number of those Scorpion tanks, and that will more than likely make it worthwhile, as he already has the tier 3, so the tier 2 not going to be too much to be worried about, as he can definitely rebuild that. But looks like the drone ship has actually expanded forward, going to be dropping a couple of those buzzer hives on the front lines. It looks like the mastermind is out on the field, so that tier 3 going up to that mastermind. He does have an avatar, or rather a tripod out on the field. Going to be cleaning up all of these Scorpion tanks. Not quite sure if all of the kills have gone over to that tripod, but that would be a decent amount of experience going over to that. And now a flame tank coming out from shock treatment, going to be able to flame down all of these base defenses being dropped by Aeonian. And again, it's looking like shock treatment's game plan is a little bit stronger here than Aeonian's, dropping actually a disruption tower as well, going to be shielding all of those infantry from sight of Aeonian. It's actually going to be forcing that mastermind to have a difficult time of grabbing that construction yard, as he cannot come in and just grab that straight away. I don't know if he can actually even see that. That's actually going to be focused down here. Oh, he does manage to get the construction yard. I don't know how he managed to see that. Maybe if he gets in close enough, he can actually see it, as we do know that infantry do reveal stealth. So suicide mastermind coming out from Aeonian managed to take out the MCV of shock treatment. He does have a war factory, so he's not out of this game by any stretch of the imagination. He does have a decent amount of production. What else do we have going on here in the north? Not too much. Still, that Tiberium spike in the middle of the map has not been captured. Aeonian could definitely capitalize on this time and grab that Tiberium spike, as he doesn't have any possibility of getting sniped here by a shock treatment. Just, I guess maybe a Shadow Team could pick that off, but honestly, it's I think worth the risk at this point in time, especially being down in economy. Could be grabbing that Tiberium spike and getting a nice boost of cash that's pretty much guaranteed. And MCV being rebuilt straight away for shock treatment. More than likely a Prodigy being rebuilt here for Aeonian. That would not be a bad idea at all. Honestly, get those back out on the field. Devastator warships finally out in the field here for Aeonian. Not a bad idea at all. This map definitely favoring artillery. Not something that we see all that often in Kane's Wrath. We don't see this map, that is. And we've seen some pretty good artillery wars here on Tiberium Wars on this particular map. So we'll have to see if Aeonian's able to make these Devastator warships really pay dividends, as this disruption tower is actually doing quite a nice job of preventing the Devastator warship from doing too much. Manages to take out a decent amount of that infantry. It looks like maybe an engineer went down in that mix. Not quite sure what he was doing in there, but I may be wrong. Unfortunately, Devastator warship taking out a couple of the buzzers coming out from that buzzer hive as well, but not too much to be worried about, as they're free of charge. And still not a whole lot going on here. for Shock Treatment on the left-hand side of things. He's got the economy advantage. He's got complete control of the middle of the map, but it's slowly dwindling here to the increasing forces coming out from Aeonian. He does have a Shock Trooper squad as well. Not quite sure what that's from. May have been from a sold-off structure. I honestly can't tell. Looks like, yeah, not a whole lot going on over here. So we did see the Tier 2 getting sniped. Looks like the Tier 1.5 for Aeonian in the form of that Stasis Chamber not coming out just yet. So not going to be seeing any of those support powers, nor the Mastermind back out on the field, at least not in the near future. Stealth Tank actually taking quite a bit of poke there from the forces of Shock Treatment. Shock Treatment actually moving his rocket squads in position, trying desperately to take out these Devastator warships as they're just doing so much damage sitting on the back lines. Looks like they did manage to take out that stealth tower, and actually Shock Treatment does not have a... yeah, no, he doesn't have the structure that he needs to actually produce that. I cannot remember for the life of me what the name of that is, and actually the construction yard is being focused down by the Devastator warships. It will go down. Construction yard number 2 has gone down for Shock Treatment, and actually Aeonian, despite looking to be in a tough situation here economy-wise, he has gone for the right unit mix here against Shock Treatment, as he's just gone for the straight campy approach, and that's just not working against these Devastator warships, despite having that stealth field for so long. Tech Lab being focused down now, and that's going to go down. Couple of Devastator warships being sacrificed for the cause. One Devastator warship is elite. He's going to be trying desperately to keep that alive. Stealth Tank being focused down here by the Buzzer Hives. I don't think that's enough DPS coming out. Oh, Devastator warship going to be trying to take out that Stealth Tank. Does not manage to get into range, but that is an elite Devastator warship. It's actually not in range of the repair drones. Yeah, he's going to move that over there now, so definitely a good idea to keep that alive. Lightning Spike on the back lines here, just going to be doing a little bit of poke here for Aeonian. Actually, Disintegrators coming in, focusing down one Shredder turret and running away. Not quite sure what the plan is, but now Aeonian is feeling comfortable enough to expand down to the south. That Devastator warship still alive. It is elite. Oh, it's in range of a SAM turret, though. Could be getting focused down. One more volley might be enough to take it out. No, it is not. One more volley. Will it be enough? Oh, the Devastator warship for Aeonian does go down, and that was really the majority of his damage output in this game. I don't quite know how he's going to survive and continue to push forward, as I think he was really banking on that going heroic and then just being the absolute death machine for him moving forward. But now Aeonian's really caught between a rock and a hard place as he's expanded aggressively down over the field here. Going to be trying to grab himself some of this sweet, sweet Tiberium down on this expansion, but he's got a couple of harvesters down here, but Shock Treatment is just mining like crazy as he has so many harvesters. He's built a couple more refineries, and now it's going to be avatars coming out as well. So Obelisk being dropped on the front line is going to be forcing the sell-off of these defensive structures here from Aeonian, and more than likely it's going to be a little bit of a base creep coming out from Shock Treatment. I could see that in the near future for him. Forces the sell-off of the drone ship, and actually that's going to be the complete sell-up here for Aeonian as Shock Treatment goes up 3-2. Oh man, that was a roller coaster. That was a back and forth game, to say the least. I really thought that Aeonian was going to get that Devastator warship up to heroic status and just let that win the game for him. But Shock Treatment with a clutch SAM turret drop managed to take a couple of volleys onto that Devastator warship and take it out before it's able to get back into range for repairs. So very, very nice move there from Shock Treatment, despite being pushed pretty heavily off of his field, despite the economy advantage. So nice moves from both players. Unfortunately, Aeonian not able to make that scrin work in this game. That early Tier 3 move and no expansion was really, really starving him out for economy. So once he loses those expensive Tier 3 units, it's pretty much GG. So Shock Treatment, he is up 3-2. This could be lights out here for Aeonian coming up in game number 6, and that's going to be coming up right now. And with that said, game number 6 brings us to the map Tournament Arena. And spawning in the top left as the blue GDI, we have Aeonian. And then moving on down into the bottom right corner, the man that is up 3-2 in this series and looking to be closing this one out in game number 6 as the bottom right pink scrin, we have Shock Treatment. So Shock Treatment versus Aeonian. Game number 6, this could be it here if Shock Treatment's able to pick up a victory here with scrin once again. he could be in a very good situation. Actually, I say Scrin once again, but I don't think he's actually won a game yet with Scrin, at least not in this series. So we'll have to see. GDI, it's been shown to be very, very strong in this series so far for both players. So Aeonian may be able to even up the series here. So we'll have to see if he's able to take himself another game and force an ace match coming out for game number 7. But with that said, we do have an outpost opener here for Shock Treatment on the right-hand side. Likewise for Aeonian on the left-hand side. This could potentially be getting sniped by the Disintegrators from Shock Treatment that have managed to make their way all the way off to the left-hand side. And it's looking like it may go down. He actually gets the deploy, but the micro from Aeonian is not quick enough to drop that War Factory on the front lines. That is devastating. It's set him pretty far behind now, as he doesn't have any economy on that blue field. Going to be forced to pack up his MCV and actually expand over there. And yeah, he's actually going to be doing that now. So meanwhile, Shock Treatment, he's got an APC engineer moving out of the right-hand side. Going to be trying to grab himself a refinery here and try to even up the score between himself and Shock Treatment. Engineer comes out but immediately gets killed off, so Aeonian not able to pick himself up a capture on that structure, unfortunately. But a couple of Rifleman squads have managed to make their way into the base of Shock Treatment. So a decent amount of scouts have been created here for Aeonian, but unfortunately not able to catch out that Disintegrator move from Shock Treatment. But the MCV has expanded forward here for Aeonian. He's going to be dropping down that MCV closer to that blue field. Desperately needs to get some refineries established on that field, as we do have harvesters being pumped out here for Aeonian in the meantime. He is up to 5 and 2 on this main field, more than likely going to be transitioning additional harvesters up to his expansion. The MCV has been kind of caught out here by a couple of Scorpions, or rather Seeker tanks here coming out from Shock Treatment, but more than likely just going to be trying to get eyes onto this field. Aeonian dropping a refinery on the left-hand side, being forced to actually pull that harvester off the line. Great camping here from Shock Treatment. He should be able to actually put these units down in the very back corner. He's actually going to engage into that watchtower. He's taking a lot of damage from that watchtower, surprisingly enough, and now these pit bulls should be able to clean these guys up with the support of these watchtowers. Actually, those watchtowers not doing a tremendous amount of damage. Looks like they are being microed to try to kill off some of these units. Oh, and that's because there was the repair drone support power being called in by Shock Treatment, so just doing so much damage. Oh my god, Shock Treatment has just set Aeonian so far behind. Aeonian managing to grab himself a full load of blue Tiberium there, but Lightning Spike being dropped as well. Going to be trying desperately to kill off some of these units. And the Harvester's actually taking a bit of poke, but 4 watchtowers being forced to be built out of Aeonian, and actually a 5th one going to be joining the battle. Just so much repair capability coming out from those repair drones. They're just instantly saving those Seeker tanks, and actually a couple of those watchtowers being sold off straight away. And man, just so tanky. Man, that's incredible amounts of damage that they were taking, as we did see the watchtowers focusing them down. But Shock Treatment in the meantime, he's got Devourer tanks, he's got that tier 2, he's capitalizing on this free time that he's been given in the middle of the map. He's already got 2 refineries on this expansion, has a huge lead over the top of Aeonian, and Aeonian, he's in a desperate situation. He cannot give up on this game due to the fact that he is down in the series, so this could be it for him. He's going to have to pull a miracle out in this game in order to get himself back in. He desperately needs to kill all of these Devourer tanks for pretty much free, without taking almost any damage in return, which is pretty much impossible. I don't quite know how he's going to do it. He's building rocket squads, but unfortunately they're being focused down by the Devourer tanks pretty quickly. Pitbull's being sacrificed to the cause as well, so Aeonian, he doesn't seem to be too concerned about sending units over to kill off these Devourer tanks, but honestly there's just too many here to deal with, and Gunwalkers coming forward as well. So very, very strong showing here from Shock Treatment. 1 Devourer tank does go down. Rocket squads being pumped out on the front lines here for Aeonian. He's going to be able to hold the line and force those rockets, or rather the pit bulls back. I'm sorry, not pit bulls, but Devourer tanks. Pit bulls here in the meantime harvesting, or rather harassing the harvesters of Shock Treatment. Man, so many commentary fails in this one. It's pretty insane, but they should be able to get a couple of harvester kills. Well, they should be able to get 1, and then it's going to be cut and run time here for these pit bulls, as the tripod is going to get into range. Should be able to pick up 1 pit bull kill, maybe. Yep, there goes 1 pit bull for sure. Forces out the phase field too. That's a pretty big support power coming out from Shock Treatment to be used so early, so that's a decent amount of economy wasted, unfortunately.
So actually a pretty good harass here coming out from Aeonian. Nice move there. And now there is a decent-sized army of infantry as well as a couple supporting Predator tanks coming out from Aeonian on the left-hand side. Devastator warships out on the front lines. Should be able to focus down a decent amount of this infantry. Needs to be careful, though. Once the rocket squads get into range, they should be able to focus down those Devastator warships pretty quickly. Buzzer hives being dropped on the front lines. Decent number of gunwalkers here. Should actually be able to force Aeonian to make a decision to take out either the gunwalkers, which are focusing them down, or the Devastator warships. Devastator warships going to be the focus here for Aeonian, but he is being caught out on all sides. The great flank coming out from shock treatment on the left-hand side, or rather in the north, by the Devourer tanks, as well as the tripods in the middle, just coming straight down the guts. And now it is just going to be infantry coming out for Aeonian to try to hold the lines here. Does have double Orca airfield coming out, or rather double airfield Orcas, as that makes a little bit more sense. And I don't know that it's going to be in time. Honestly, there's a decent number of gunwalkers here. They need to be focused down in order to allow those Orcas to be used to their full potential. Shields actually being upgraded here for shock treatment. The jig is up for Aeonian. He needs to bring in the Orcas, and that will be exposing the fact that he does have them out on the field. Drops down 2 of the tripods, going to be keeping himself alive. Loses a decent number of harvesters, though. Unfortunately, 2 of those harvesters get crushed, and then a third one will be going down to the Devourer tanks. It looks like actually a mastermind out on the field as well, going to be grabbing himself a refinery as well as a harvester. So Aeonian is looking to be pretty much defeated, and shock treatment is looking so good here in game number 6, and this is exactly what he needs to clean this one up. He could potentially be securing himself a victory in this tournament and grabbing himself that first place position. As I continually stumble over words, I guess that's what I get for casting at 1 o'clock in the morning. But all the same, Aeonian, he's going to continue to try to hold the line here. He has a couple of tripods in his own possession now, being forced to kill off his own refinery, though that's a little bit unfortunate. And a couple of base defenses being dropped by shock treatment in the base of Aeonian. Going to be forced to kill those guys off. Rifleman squad going to try to get away here for shock treatment, but it should not be able to get away. I think, honestly, it will get caught out, but honestly, that's a decent number of Orcas. Should be able to focus down a decent number of the Devourer tanks. Great control here coming out from Aeonian. Unfortunately, is going to take some damage from these gunwalkers. Doesn't actually take too many down, though. I think only one or two Orcas for about 4 or 5 of those Devourer tanks, as well as it looks like a tripod. So pretty good trade there for Aeonian, and that's exactly what he needs. He needs good trades right now. And no, it is going to be the sell up here from Aeonian, and shock treatment going to be picking himself up game number 6, as well as the series, to become the victor of the Tiberium Wars 1 versus 1 Spring Showdown Tournament. Sorry, guys, this has been a horrible cast, but I hope you guys all enjoyed the action. That was an interesting game. Honestly, it looked like Aeonian was coming back a little bit there towards the end when he got that huge trade with those Orcas. But honestly, shock treatment, he was just so far ahead. The early snipe of that outpost, as well as just harassing the Bluefield harvesters with those Seeker tanks, joined by the repair drones, as well as the lightning spike drop. So that was just such good control there from shock treatment to actually drop that on that field and just have that all planned out in his head, saying, I'm going to continue to press this advantage and continue to put him further behind in economy, and then snowball that into a lead that I can just absolutely steamroll over the base of Aeonian. And that's exactly what he did. Took a little bit of damage there from the Orca transition, but honestly it was too little too late for Aeonian. Despite a good effort, he was knocked out, takes the second place prize, but shock treatment going to be picking himself up a tournament victory here, and a very nice faction, bringing us to 6 games. So a very exciting set of games. I hope you guys have all enjoyed it, and that's going to be it for me today. Be sure to let me know what you guys thought of the games and the cast, and with that said, that's going to be it. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.